Okay, chali. Namaskar, everybody. Good afternoon, all. I welcome you all on the behalf of StudyIQ IS. My name is Pritesh Maturkar. I'm the Senior Faculty of Geography, Environment, and Ecology in StudyIQ IS. And side by side, guys, I'm also your tour guide because the person whom you are seeing on your screen right now, I have been to more than 48 countries and have traveled across 49 countries of the world per se. So for me, geography is not only my profession but also my passion. So I welcome you all to basically a very different journey which has been entitled Geography Through Maps version 2.0, where I am focusing on three very important parameters. Number first being that will be focusing on conceptual clarity too, along with the location analysis as to what the geography of one particular location entails. Number two will be also focusing on current affairs as they come when we start the particular region. And number third, through this series, whatever I'll be drawing on the board, whatever data I'll be sharing to all of you, all of it will be readily available on my Telegram handle CAC with PM, just as it is after the lecture. So, good afternoon, everyone. Ayush sir, Dheeraj sir, Kanwar ma'am, rest of you, those who are watching me live right now, feel free to comment because this is a live lecture. So, I always believe in taking doubts. I always believe in engaging with all of you all. So, I welcome you all. Today, we'll be finishing off the remaining part of Australia, where we'll be discussing of some of the important cities, the minerals, the different mountain ranges, and most importantly, we'll also try to understand its connection with the continent which is now sunken called as Zealandia. Okay, so yesterday we did try to understand that the complete Western Australia, this part is just like an uplifted landmass. Today we'll be focusing on this part more often. We'll try to understand what were the impacts of El Nino and La Nina in Australia, what the northwest monsoon is doing right now for Australia, and we'll try to understand the lineage of the local aborigines called as the Bindiboos out there. Okay, chalo. So let's begin off. First of all, please let me know, everybody, those who are watching my live, am I audible to you all? Am I clearly visible to you all? Is my voice and my video feedback coming for all of you? Because that is very important. Okay, chalo. Thank you so much for your confirmation. I guess right now we are having close to 7 to 10 people who are watching live. So thank you for your confirmation. So yesterday we did understand that Australia is the world's largest island continent and the world's largest island country. It's surrounded by water on all the four sides. We did understand the important states, the important water bodies which separate Australia from the Southern Ocean and which separate Australia from New Zealand and this part. We did understand that the complete Western Australia, this is basically a shield region. Shield region meaning that it is an exposed craton. So the basement or the core rock of the continental crust is exposed. So because of this, this region is very much dominant in minerals that we'll see today. And this part of Western Australia over here, this is called as the Pilbara block. So Pilbara block is one of the most ancient rock structure, one of the most ancient rock, basically core rock of Australia, and that too of the world, with rocks dating back to more than 4 billion years. So, Pilbara, along with the Kabwal Craton of Africa and that of Quebec, these three regions they make up one of the world's oldest rock systems out there. So we did see the surrounding mountain ranges. Over here we were having Darling Range. Over here we were having the Hammersley Range, Christchurch Range. Above we were having a Kimberley Plateau. Over here we were having Berkeley Tableland Plateau. Then we had the McDonald Range and the Musgrave Range. Now, when we shift to this particular part of Australia, so this is called as the South and the Central Basin slash lowland. So if I'm just showcasing you the geology of Australia over here, so this complete Western Australia is referred to as the Australian Shield, and this is basically referred to as the central and the southern lowlands of Australia. Lowlands meaning here you have gradation change, and it's a sort of basin. Basin meaning that this is an uplifted landmass. On the far east side of Australia, we have a continuous mountain range called as GDR. So in between the plateau region and in between the Great Dividing Range, you have sort of a geosyncline, you have sort of a basin. So that is why when you go over here in this southern part of Australia, this is where majority of the rivers drain over here, and this is where you have the Lake Erie region, which was an inland drainage, but today the rivers have practically dried up. So before understanding this region, we'll first understand GDR. We'll try to understand what the underlying rock structure is and why this Erie Basin, it is referred to as the Great Artesian Basin. So first of all, let me open up the physical map of Australia so that we can quickly summarize up the entries and then we can move ahead. So if we are trying to understand what is happening on the east coast, so on the east coast, starting from the Cape York Peninsula. Now, in this series, for the very first time, I'm uttering the word basically peninsula. So, peninsula is a narrow strip of land which is surrounded by water on three sides, like we have in India, the Indian peninsula. So, a narrow strip of land which is surrounded by water on three sides, same over here. The Cape York Peninsula is surrounded by Gulf of Carpentaria. So, Gulf is exact opposite of this. So, this is a basically a water body which is surrounded by land on three sides with basically a little bit wide opening. So Gulf, Bay, Bight. So if I'm talking about Gulf, you can have basically Gulf of Mannar, Gulf of Thailand, then you can have Gulf of Khambar, Gulf of Kutch. So Gulf compared with Bay, so Bombay, Trombay. So Bay is basically relatively more wide open water body as compared to Gulf. Gulf's opening will be a little bit smaller as compared to Bay. So when I'm talking about Gulf, it's the exact opposite of Peninsula, where a water body is surrounded by land on three sides, whereas Peninsula is the land, a narrow strip of land which is surrounded by water on three sides. So does it happen due to transform boundary? No, Ayush. Transform boundary in the middle of Australia is not that well developed. These are basically all fold mountains. So when Australia was part of Pangaea in the Gondwana land, that is when we have the upliftment of GDR close to around 220, 250 million years ago. So the GDR of Australia, then you can have basically the Urals of Russia, the Appalachians of North America. These are all uplifted between 200 to 400 million years ago. So if I'm talking about Cape York Peninsula, Gulf of Carpentaria, above you have Torres Strait, then on the east side you are having Coral Sea. So starting from Cape York Peninsula till the southernmost state of Australia referred to as Victoria, you find one continuous mountain range. This continuous mountain range, it is referred to as the GDR, the Great Dividing Range. So dividing range, what is it dividing? Actually, like if you see the past orogeny of Australia, how it was well connected with the southern Gondwana land. So in actuality, this GDR was extending to the northernmost part of Antarctica. So this was actually touching some part of Antarctica. If we are talking about why today it is referred to as the GDR, it is because it completely divides the Western Australian topography from what we find in the south and the east. So to the west of GDR lies the Great Australian Outback, where 90% is completely arid topography, absolutely uninhabitable conditions. And to the east of that, we find good rainfall. To the east of that, we find the Great Barrier Reef, which is the world's largest coral reef system. And if I'm talking about GDR, to the south of it, we have basically the grasslands of Australia. So let us try to understand first. So if I'm talking about GDR, GDR has is extensions. Extensions in the sense, you all know that when I'm talking about mountain ranges, so mountain ranges, they never exist in isolation. They will always exist as series of parallel ranges. So when I'm talking about GDR, GDR has extensions in the form of Grey Range. Then if I'm discussing little bit in depth more further, so you do have extension of GDR as New England Range, then Near Canberra, we have the Australian Alps, and over here we have snowy mountains. So Canberra is the Australian Capital Territory, and above we are having Sydney, and above it we are having New England Range. So New England Range, Grey Range, GDR, Snowy Mountains, Australian Alps, these are all the extensions of this only. And then if you go to the west side, we have the Barrier Range, and then we have the Findler's Range. So Findler's Range, Barrier Range, GDR, this in totality is referred to as the Eastern and the Southern Highlands. So again, if I'm opening up basically the geology of Australia, and if you see this particular part, so over here you will be clearly able to see this is basically referred to as the Findler's Range, and this over here, this is referred to as the GDR, the Eastern Uplands. So the Findler's Range cannot be called as the extension of GDR directly. It is just like that, it is broken in the middle, and then we are having the Findler's Range extending till the south. So in the middle we have the basin, we have the Erie Basin, where two very important rivers flow. One is Murray River, and the another river we have, it is called as the Darling River. So in a nutshell, if I'm talking about which is the most important mountain range of Australia, the most important mountain range of Australia is going to be the Great Dividing Range. Now, if I'm factoring in the Great Dividing Range, so Great Dividing Range will do what? Great Dividing Range will stop, or it will act as a orographic barrier to the incoming southeast trade winds. So if GDR is acting as an orographic barrier to the trade winds, the rainfall in this part of Australia will start decreasing. Now, if I take you to the bottom of GDR, what type of rock structure do we have? So in the bottom of GDR like this, so this is our Great Dividing Range. So the bottom structure of GDR is somewhat like this. So you have impervious rock, and in between you have soft sedimentary. So this is basically our GDR above. Below you are having a stable granite or dioritic block. So you have granite. After that, in the middle you are having soft sedimentaries, and below again you are having the soft and hard alternate arrangement going on, and below it again you will be having hard rock. So this type of sandwich arrangement exists underneath Great Dividing Range. So whatever rainfall happens over here, the rainwater percolates. See, rainwater cannot pass through granite because granite being an igneous rock, it is impervious. So water takes time to seep because water has to find some creaks and cracks. Water cannot start dissolving granite on its own. Whereas as soon as it reaches the sedimentary, so sedimentary rocks as compared to igneous rocks, they will be loosely packed. They won't be having such a high compaction ratio. So the sedimentary rocks out there, they can hold water. Now, if you drill through this granite, and if you just come in contact with this underground aquifer, this entire water comes out with very heavy pressure. So such type of well or such type of topography where we have soft sedimentary sandwiched between two hard granitic or dioritic blocks, this is referred to as what? This is referred to as artisan well or artisan basin, where you have natural aquifers existing. That is why if I'm taking you to this part of Australia over here, this region is also referred to as the Great Artisan Basin. Why artisan basin? Because all the rainwater gets trapped in between the soft sedimentaries, and as soon as you basically pump it out, it comes out with great pressure. So this artisan basin, you are having good amount of underground reserves. Then as soon as you move down south, this region is referred to as the Southern Australian lowlands, This is where we have the grasslands of Australia. So the grasslands of Australia, they're referred to as the Downs of Australia, drained by two very important rivers. You have River Darling and then you have River Murray. So the latitudinal location is such that the temperatures are neither too extreme, neither too cold. The temperatures are rather moderate. So the Downs of Australia, they are referred to as the temperate grasslands. Mind you, these are not tropical grasslands. These are temperate grasslands. And add to it, the orography of snowy mountains, Australian Alps and GDR plays a very big role. The rainfall is not that intense, plus the climate is cold. You can occasionally have snowfall too. So this year in southern Australia, you had snowfall after many long years. Again, one of the main attributes is climate change. So if I'm just showcasing you the Downs of Australia, the first temperate grassland region which we are discussing, let me just open up Google for all of you all. So the Downs of Australia. The Downs of Australia are pretty extensively cultivated. The primary occupation over here, of course, is cattle rearing. You have flat topography. When I'm talking about downs, so downs are presently in news. Why the downs are presently in news? Because whenever we are having El Nino conditions coming, so El Nino condition coming means on the eastern side of Australia, you will be having droughts and you will be having more and more rainfall on the west coast of South America, in particularly the western coastal regions of Peru. So this year, like starting from last year's December and January of this year, you were having pretty severe droughts in basically this region of Australia. So for the very first time, we had basically lots and lots of wildfires ravaging this southern Australia. So if I'm just showcasing you the current affairs, this is very important. Mind you, this can come as a question, like wildfires now are shifting their focus to grassland region. So wildfires, bushfires are very common now in southern Australia. Let me just open it up. So if we are basically talking about an area of southern Queensland larger than Tasmania is under total fire ban that will be extended from central Queensland to the Gold Coast from Thursday. During what is expected at least 5-day ban across 43 government, all open fires will be prohibited. The ban today sources from LGS Southwest has a temperature forecast to mid 30s in the Darling Downs. When the ban takes place, so what we are witnessing over here is, if we are talking about this region of Australia, so this region of Australia from 2020 till 2023 was under La Nina condition. You were actually having floods happening. There was heavy amount of rainfall happening. So even the northwestern Australia, this part, they were having good rainfall but from starting 2023 onwards, everything went haywire. The cycles of El Nino and La Nina, they flipped. Right now, no thing is basically established whether La Nina is there or El Nino is there. So the central Australia, the southern Australia, and even now the southeastern Australia is completely drying up. So Darling Downs, it can come as a 1 or 2 marker question. It can come as basically a mains question to the threat of climate change to the temperate grasslands. So today we are discussing Australia's downs. Tomorrow we'll move towards the Canterbury Plains of New Zealand. So a very distinctive feature of temperate grasslands is what? Extensive agriculture. Extensive meaning that one farmer will own several hectares of land, and these farmers will be putting heavy utilization pressure over here. They are having their own private airfields, they have their own private jets to basically sprinkle fertilizers. Jets in the sense the propeller planes. So they use aeroplanes to sprinkle fertilizers, and these regions they export beef on a very large quantity. Plus, if I'm talking about the Darling Downs, so over here, one ship is very famous. The name of the ship is Merino ship. So, if I'm just showcasing you this ship, one of the costliest wool you can find in the world. This ship is referred to as the Merino ship. This ship is exclusively found, like if you talk about the genetic diversity, from where this ship has come. So this ship has come from southern Australia. Merino ship, very, very costable. I should be asking, sir, as Australia is a continent, it is always that the continents have granitic rocks where oceans have basaltic rocks. Yeah, oceanic floor is predominantly basaltic. Granitic rocks are not common in the continental crust. So continental crust exterior one is basically andesite and diorite. If you go to the basement or the core rock of the continent, then it's predominantly diorite. Diorite, you also have sapphirolite and you have granite. So granite, sapphirolite, granite, diorite, these three rocks, they dominate the continental interiors. But the exterior rocks which are exposed above the sea level, you predominantly have andesite and rhyolite iosir. Now, when I'm talking about Australia, we have to remember one more very important thing. See, of all the region of Australia, only this region of Australia is supporting agriculture, and this small island of Australia called as Tasmania supports good agriculture. Let's Rest of the regions of Australia do not support good agriculture. Therefore, Tasmania is referred to as the garden state of Australia. We call it as what? We call it as the garden state. And the Bass Strait over here is also referred to as the garden strait, because majority of the vegetables are basically shipped from Tasmania to the continental landmass of Australia. And Australia is heavily reliant on what? Australia is heavily reliant on basically the vegetables, and basically it is heavily reliant on fruits, not only from Tasmania but from New Zealand and from China. So right now we all seeing the tussle between China and Japan going ahead. So everybody is fearing that if China and Japan harden their ties, if China and South Korea harden their ties, then China will again start shifting its focus towards Australia. Australia is a very, very important province for India's dominance in the Indo-Pacific region. So we are extending lots and lots of cooperation right now to Australia, but the Australian people right now are protesting one such company which is very much like that name is now resonating in everybody's ears, and the name is of course Adani. Because now if I'm talking about the mineral reserves of Australia, so Australia ranks number one in many mineral exports, many mineral exports. The numbers keep on fluctuating, the rankings keep on fluctuating, but iron ore, coal, uranium, rare earths, of course China is there, but Australia also has good amount of rare earths. Plus you have lithium. So the numbers will keep on fluctuating. For some years, Australia was also the largest exporter of gold too. But iron ore, coal, uranium, this is where Australia outshines every other country on the world, because the answer is in front of you. I told you the complete Western Australia is a very, very important mineral region, complete. And see the saturation of minerals in this particular part. Guys, those who are watching me live right now, Ayush, then Skanvar ma'am, Dheeraj sir, rest of you, please feel free to comment. See, whatever I'm telling you, whatever I'm showcasing you, I can prove it. So I told you that this is one of the world's oldest craton out there. See the concentration of minerals. So the older the craton, the more exposed it will be, the more minerals it will carry. So this, along with Africa's Katanga, is one of the world's richest mineral regions, Pilbara region. Over here we are having Perth. So Perth is the only major city in Western Australia. It dominates the mineral exports of Australia. So now, if you see what minerals does this region hold, so let me just open up the legend also for all of you, so that you can get a bird's eye view. I hope that this is visible. Let me just go full screen. Then it will be more visible. Yeah. I guess this is more visible now. If I'm going full screen and if I'm just showcasing you the important mineral regions that we have in Australia. So the Pilbara craton is very dominant for what? Is very dominant for iron ore. Australia ranks number one. The numbers keep on fluctuating, but yes, Australia dominates very heavily. Then the complete Western Australia to the south, it is dominated by precious metals, gold and silver. Then if I'm talking about this particular region, so this particular region will have coal, this particular region will have graphite, and you can have aluminum and silica, very pure elements happening in the west coast. And over here we also have which deposits? Over here we also have uranium deposits. So the Western Australia, you can have iron, you can have coal, then you can have silver, you can have gold, you can have aluminum, and you can also have silica along with graphite. So very dominant regions that we have in the world. And now if I move towards little bit the northern side, so northern side is basically very much dominant by which type of minerals? So here you are seeing the blue square and the blue rectangle, plus you are also seeing red square and red rectangle along with traces of green one. So what exactly is this? If I'm just showcasing you the legend below, so base metals, see the copper, then you have again zinc, then you have plumbum, gold, silver, every goddamn metal which you find in the world, it is available in Australia in huge quantities. Plus, you also have zirconium, zinc, nickel deposits. You also have lithium, titanium deposits everywhere spreaded in Australia. So, in a nutshell, the complete Western Australia, along with the Kimberley province, the Berkeley tableland, and the northern Darwin province is really a mineral hotbed, not only for Australia but for the entire world. And then, as soon as you come on the east coast, this is where you find diamonds, this is where you find uranium, this is where you find graphite. So, uranium, diamond, graphite on the east coast, it is very much saturated. And mind you, this region of Australia is not yet that much explored. Why? Because of security reasons out there. This region is basically where we have a city called as Alice Springs. So Alice Springs, if you Google up, it's a very important center of Five Eyes Agreement, the joint military and intelligence sharing agreement between the five countries of the world. So one of the very important headquarters situated in Central Australia called as Alice Springs. That is where the data is not available. Now, to this, if we apply the important cities of Australia, because cities of Australia is also very important. So some of the important cities of Australia will quickly go through. The most important city for Australia on the west coast is of course Perth. Why Perth is so goddamn important? Because Perth is the most important mineral export port. Very important mineral export port of Australia. Then if you come straight over here, this is where you are having Darwin. So just besides Darwin, you are having a land called as Arhan land. So Arhan land is referred to as Bindiboo Sanctuary. See, guys, when the colonizers first settled over here, so the Britishers, they followed the policy of basically social exclusion. They did not try to reform the Bindibus, they did not try to basically amalgamate them along with their culture. They started to basically persecute them. So slowly, Bindibus, which are concentrated predominantly along the southern coast, they slowly started to migrate towards north. They settled over here in the Musgrave and MacDonald ranges. This become inhabitable for them. So today, majority of the Bindibu tribes, today majority of the people of the Bindibu lineage, they stay where? They reside in the Arham land region. So over here you have the most holy site of Bindibu people. This is referred to as Uluru, Ayers Rock. We do have the image of this over here. Those people who have geography as an optional, you can understand that this is referred to as Monadnock. Rest of you, please don't worry what I just said. So Uluru Ayers Rock, it's a very holy site for the Bindibu people. Now it has been closed down for tourism. The tourists are not allowed because all of us know when wherever tourism follows, waste management and the littering of the holy places starts. So right now this place has been completely, what I can say, closed down for tourists, and it is being preserved for the Bindibu people out there. So Darwin, a very important city for them, and Darwin is a very important world meteorological center. Why? Because Darwin is from where we have the measurement of ENSO, El Nino, and the Southern Oscillation Index. So, how is the occurrence of El Nino and La Nina happening? We measure it by the pressure difference between Darwin and you have another city in French Polynesia, the capital of it called as Tahiti. So, Darwin is a very important world meteorological center. Then, if you go towards the east coast, so the city which is most famous for coral reefs anywhere in the world, the gateway into the Great Barrier Reef, we have a city called as Cranes. Very, very important. So Cranes is considered as the coral reef gateway because after this you have the beginning of the Great Barrier Reef, and you have lots and lots of reefs, you have lots and lots of atolls. So small reefs, small atolls over here, and after that if you come down south, so this is basically referred to as the tourism capital of Australia, Brisbane and Gold Coast, because this is where you have lots of theme parks, casinos and everything, Gold Coast region. After that, if you come down, so the economic capital of Australia, we have Sydney. Then the capital city of Australia, Canberra, one of the most planned cities of the world. Canberra is very, very beautiful city, the most planned city you can say. Even the parliament of Canberra is not visible. It's actually under the ground. If I just showcase you, how does Canberra look like? So one of the most planned cities you will ever see. So see, this is how Canberra looks like. Let me just open up a large image. Yep. So this is how in reality Canberra is. Very, very beautiful city. Very much planned city out there. And this city basically is situated alongside the snowy mountains on one side, and another side you are having the Australian Alps. So the temperatures are very much maintained. You have neither very cold conditions, neither very warm conditions. On the east coast, we have a warm ocean current called as the Eastern Australian current coming. So it also moderates the temperature. And now, if I'm taking you to the southern part of Australia, so southern part of Australia is where we have the world's most livable city. Like you have an index called as Livable Cities Index or Livable Habitat Places Index. So, Livable Cities Index or Living City Index, Melbourne of Australia and the capital of Austria, Vienna. These two cities they top. Just to share some funny thing about these two cities. So, if you go to Austria, there is a dedicated counter at the airport of Vienna for those passengers who mistake Austria for Australia. So they have a dedicated counter over there. People do reach Austria thinking that they have reached Australia. It happens, and I have practically seen that also happening. It's very funny. But Melbourne becomes the most livable city. Melbourne, along with this region of Australia, this is referred to as the region surrounding, where is it? Adelaide, yes. So Spencer Gulf and Windsor Gulf. So this is Windsor Gulf, Spencer Gulf. These regions, they are very, 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 very much habitable. So starting from basically the Adelaide, then if you move into Victoria, covering the Murray and Darling Basin, these regions are really very much habitable. Now, the last part of Australia, which is again very important, just giving you a bird's eye view with respect to the vegetation of Australia. Because vegetation of Australia is really very unique. Unique in the sense, if you go in the northern side of Australia, this is where we find tropical monsoon. So we find tropical monsoon type of forests, tropical monsoon find of rainforests, similar to that which we find in India. So today, the tropical rainforests of Australia, the northern Australia, the Darwin region, along with the tropical rainforest of central India, like that of eastern Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, then Jharkhand, Odisha, these are right now one of the most oldest surviving natural growth forest of the world. Natural growth forest means untouched up till now. So over here we have the tropical monsoon forest. Then if you go on the eastern highland region, so this is where we find coniferous vegetation, but this coniferous is deciduous. Deciduous meaning that these coniferous trees, they do shed some leaves. After that, if I'm taking you over here, the downs of Australia, so this is where you find the steppe type of vegetation, steppe, similar to what we find in Russia, Kazakhstan and Ukraine. Then this part of Australia, it is basically having the Mediterranean type of vegetation. So similarly, what you find basically on the southern side of Italy, southern side of Greece, Spain, Portugal, this is what you find the Mediterranean type of climate or the Mediterranean type of vegetation. This complete part of Australia, this is basically desert. So over here, predominantly we'll be finding xerophytic vegetation. Xerophytic vegetation meaning such vegetation which will be having very long roots growing straight into the ground, and they won't be having leaves. Leaves will be converted or they will be replaced by thorns out there. And then this particular region of Australia is having mixed vegetation or mixed type of climate. So now, in a nutshell, if I just open for all of you the climate and the vegetation types of Australia. Now I'm doing Google search so that you can just benefit from it and you should all know it. So the vegetation types in Australia, then it becomes very easy for all of you to understand once I showcase to all of you. Yeah. So distribution of major vegetation types that we have. So see, the northern Australia over here, this is where we are having forests. Then savanna, the open grassland type. So this is where we are having little bit of open grassland type happening. Then we are having the mulga or the dry desert type of vegetation completely over here. Then this particular type of vegetation which we have, this is completely xerophytic, dominated by cacti, and only this part of Australia, the Melbourne region, the Victoria region, is dominated by grasslands. So the east coast, you can have little bit of coniferous, deciduous coniferous. Above you are having tropical rainforests. After that, the Western Australia completely dominated by desert vegetation, completely dominated by shrubland. Only in the south we are basically having what? We are having basically the agriculture. Okay. Sorry. So this sums up Australia from my end. I hope that all of you are basically getting the most out of this. So this being the first country which I discussed with you all, and of course the first continent, that is why I divided into two parts. Now we'll be starting one part, one continent. So tomorrow I'll be discussing the newly discovered continent called as Zealandia. So there we'll be discussing the New Caledonian Islands and the islands of New Zealand. After that, we'll move on our discussions to that of South America and the Americas. Okay. So everybody, please don't forget to follow me on Telegram. My official handle on Telegram is this one. It is referred to as CSC with PM. And whatever I'm discussing on the board, whatever maps I'll be discussing, they will all be uploaded on my Telegram portal just as it is after the lecture. Please don't forget. So I will see you all now. So tomorrow there will be no mapping. We will be just doing the mapping of New Zealand from Monday onwards. And Monday onwards, I'll be also bringing in basically MCQs. So that MCQs either will be PBIQ based or I'll be designing my MCQs on my own. So from Monday onwards, we'll be stepping up a notch more. And please, now that you are having the weekend with you all, try to summarize, try to draw Australia's basically map and try to search current affairs on your own. Like Australia has become the first country in the world to implement right to disconnect. So post 6 p.m., your manager cannot call you to work more. So Australia is also now the first country in the world, along with New Zealand, who are thinking of completely banning social media to young kids. New Zealand has banned smoking, New Zealand has banned drinking. So these countries, they really function and they really basically give their hearts out to build up the social capital of their country. Social capital meaning we, the people of the country. Okay, if the government is functioning for us, it should always function in our welfare. It should always take care what are the present day challenges and how these challenges can be overcome. Okay, Chale. So thank you everybody for today. I will see you all now on Monday. Tomorrow there will be a separate session where we'll be discussing the PYQs of geography in general. So the success and prelims will be meeting up at the same time, and rest of you, I will all meet you on Monday. Okay, so tata, bye bye, adios amigos. Please keep on smiling, please keep on working hard, because that is the ultimate crux of life. Take care everybody, bye bye, have a happy weekend. Thank you.